Hughes here. I'm the co-founder of Digital Leadership Associates. I'm also the author of the book, Social Selling Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers. With me today, I've got Alan Griffin. Alan has been working in the Far East for a number of years. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about WeChat and the importance of WeChat. Because I think sometimes, certainly in Western society, we tend to miss out on that. Before we go any further, Alan, explain to everybody where people can find you in terms of your coordinates on social media.
I think as my Twitter handle is Hong Kong Griffin, LinkedIn's Alan Griffin, and then obviously I'm on Facebook, but that's an invite thing. I spread many links that's happening around the world, usually covering China or the West and the intersection between the two, and innovations and developments across the world, especially within the media space, which is my traditional background.
So you've worked at places like Reuters and Forbes and some fantastic mega brands, and I know that you've got great experience of those, especially within the Far East.
Yep, I would describe myself as a digital native. I've grown up and spent my whole working life building digital products and services, growing audiences both in the UK, the US, Asia, and the rest of the world. I spent 8 years in Asia working for Reuters and Forbes, developing branded content, commercials, audiences. I even ran a Reuters news operation within China, which was great fun. And so it's there really that I came into contact with the development of Chinese social media tools and innovation, which is obviously what we're going to talk about. So I've got a great history in building communities and digital.
Because you said that you've been around for 20 years in terms of social media, in terms of some of the early community building, pioneering stuff.
Yeah. So for me, community on the web really started off with places like CompuServe and AOL. And I was fortunate enough to join AOL in the early days. It was a fantastic hotbed of community drives interaction, which drives interest, which was getting people to talk across social media. And that really gave me a starting experience of the power of community and social.
Fantastic. So we may come back to that, but you actually, I remember because when we were, we had a conversation in terms of preparation for this call, and you were saying that you were sitting in a taxi in, I think it was Beijing, like 5 years ago, and this 5 years ago, I'm going to say it, and somebody basically had hailed that taxi in using an app and paid for it all with WeChat.
Yes, and it was one of those moments where you just go, what the heck just happened? And it was such a natural thing to happen between my Chinese colleague and the taxi driver. I was just thinking, what's the West missed? And I'd been using WeChat before that to communicate, to message with friends. But it was that point which was suddenly thought, oh my God, the payment understanding of Tencent and WeChat to actually develop a credit card relationship at such an early stage within the social messaging, social development was just awe-inspiring. And over the years, I've just stayed in tune with WeChat. I use it a lot, especially when I'm dealing with Chinese contacts. And it's just incredible the kind of use cases around it, whether that's communication or payment or media or whatever, which we can talk about in detail. But that first introduction through a taxi was mind-blowing.
So, I mean, you described to me WeChat as being Facebook, LinkedIn, WhatsApp, and Apple Pay,
Google Docs, LinkedIn,
all in one application.
Yeah, it is. It is. And what we can do is spend a bit of time talking about some of the applications, and then it'll probably bring it to life for your audience. And literally what they've done is hoovered all those applications we've taken for granted now in the West, but they've been living in one application in China for quite a long time.
So you described to me that that the way that Western social media tended to be built was it's an advertising platform, and what we're going to do is we're going to sell advertising to you, whereas WeChat had been built from the bottom up because there wasn't any legacy systems, and what they did is that they actually wanted to build a payments platform and then all the stuff around it.
Yeah, I think what the Chinese had done whilst watching the Western social apps and media grow, they'd seen that certainly from the American originated apps, that there was very much an advertising component to it. And I think they were fortunate in order to be able to jump ahead. And they realized that actually what they wanted to do was capture people's credit card details and then get people spending money and committing transactions, because they saw eventually a higher return from that. In fact, now they're adding advertising into WeChat as an additional, but I think they saw a greater piece of pie and commercial benefit through the credit card payments.
And just so the audience understands, they were doing this first, and the West copied, or the West did it first, and the Chinese copied.
I think.
Or am I putting you on the spot there?
Yeah, I think there's been a sharing
of
intellectual property on different. I mean, I think the WeChat, the humble origins of the WeChat actually came from Korea and a service called Kakao, and I think people have been borrowing applications across the world ever since. Certainly, when you see WhatsApp now, they're adding things like video and other applications that have been in WeChat for a long time.
Because you've actually, I mean, in preparation for this call, I signed up for WeChat. I've not been on WeChat before, and you've got Skype facility there, and at the messaging, and it's amazing that the video chat facility that's on there.
Yeah, I mean, I use that for video conferencing around the world. So you can plug in, say, 4 people into a call, all on your WeChat account, and that's been going on for many years. I think that's fantastic. I think that's a great business use case. In fact, I think I saw some stat, I think it was 83% of WeChat users in China use it for business, which is an incredible number. So there's the conferencing bit, there's obviously the messaging, and there's the voice part. But actually something that also bowled me over was the file transfer. So if you put a file into Google email and you try and send it, there's lots of systems that just won't let you do a massive file size. So nowadays I use WeChat to send file sizes which are large. So if it's 15 meg, it's easy to send on WeChat.
Right. So we talked about the fact that there was kind of 3 pillars of WeChat, and the first one being what you saw as being very much about. Well, let me just go through what the 3 pillars are, and we'll pick each one. So one was to do with the communication tool. Number 2 was about payments, and then the number 3 was about buying things.
Yeah.
So if you came up with some, we'll go to those interesting stats that you had from Reuters. But in terms of a communication tool, you basically went through and said it does video calls, it can do the file sharing, and you can use it for your business and your personal contacts.
And I think they've got some fun elements as well. So personal chat and messaging, tick, lots of people have that. Personal updates like Moments, which is like your Facebook stream, tick, it does that. It does a couple of fun things like you can shake your phone and it'll find some random person.
I saw that. It's just completely random. It was somebody in Iraq or somebody like that. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah. And then you can do things like people finder locally, which I think when it first started was almost a Tinder-esque type part to it. Where you could sort out either men or women close to you that you could search and then you could message. I think WeChat's been trying to bury that as one of the use cases because I think it was a bit too Tinder for them. Yes. But things like you can send people your real-time location so it's easy to get to someone, video chat, group conferencing we've covered, file sharing. It's even got a QR reader which actually comes into both connecting with someone you know as well as the payments mechanic as well.
So you get you get like a QR code, don't you? You set it up for yourself,
your personal phone,
which I guess is a way of, it's a kind of like a mobile business card, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And then you can share that.
And I think that there is a and it seemed to be so you could share that, but also I've not actually tried the QR code. I mean, it's something in the West that's never really taken off.
No, but it's big in the East, both for payments as well as contact details sharing. So if you go into a supermarket, say in the Far East, with WeChat, you can actually QR code a product, and it'll actually give you a sense of how much it costs and where you can get it cheaper.
Right. Okay. Which is available in the West, but you've got to kind of come out of. I mean, what you have in your phone is you have lots and lots of different apps, don't you? And you've got to try. Yeah. Where's that one? You know, and
and that takes us on to the payment bit, which also does things like, say, your taxi ordering we've kind of covered. So finding a taxi, paying for it. Didi, which is the equivalent of Uber in China, has actually built an app within the WeChat so that people can access Didi taxis. You can do the food ordering system through WeChat, which is, say, like your Deliveroo.
So Deliveroo, yeah.
Yeah. One thing that I really find very sweet is that if you're out to the restaurant with friends, you can split the bill through WeChat and just send each other the cash, so one person will pay for it, and automatically you just start splitting the bill and people will do it through the WeChat app. You can manage your wealth. Even Tencent, who runs WeChat, actually has a wealth fund. So you can actually allocate your money through to stock, shares, funds, or whatever. You can sort out your things like your mobile top-ups. You can pay when you're in a store for goods through WeChat. So you'll get a bill and then you'll be able to actually pay through the QR code. So really neat stuff, I think. And it's all within one ecosystem, and that's the smart play, I think.
Yeah, and I think that most organizers, the Apples and the Androids realize that by using your phone or whatever as a payment method, they can skin some money off the top.
Yeah,
and if they've got a billion people doing that, and they're all buying, and that's a lot of. It might only be a small skim, but with a lot of people doing it, it's a big amount of money.
And I wasn't able to verify this number, but the other day someone told me that there's 2,000 transactions a second on WeChat. And you just think, okay, so if they're taking a slice of that, that's absolutely huge amounts of potential revenue.
And also, so payments for taxes, transferring shops, which kind of moves us. There's also games on WeChat as well.
There's a media world, which is games, which is what was starting off with Tencent. So they've always had games on WeChat. It was one of the things that gave it real credibility and real community at the beginning. And they've also got news, media. They've got a picture editor similar to Instagram that actually you can put into your moments or send people. So there's kind of a media universe. So they're trying to capture you in your payment mold. They're trying to capture you in your entertainment mode. And they're trying to capture
I've lost you, Alan. Oh, you
just froze.
Okay, so did you. So we were talking about the games.
So things like Candy Crush type games to keep people involved.
And that's all got gaming, and so it's a kind of a walled garden, really, in terms of the way that it's provided. So you also talked about buying things as well, didn't you?
Sorry, I missed that.
Okay, you also talked about buying things in terms of the way that that people actually put their stalls on WeChat.
Yeah, so companies nowadays understand that in order to be successful, they need to have a WeChat store. So if you're a shop, then you'll develop your WeChat store so people can go in and within the environment of WeChat, they'll buy your goods. Right. So rather than going off to IKEA.com, for instance, it would be IKEA within WeChat. And you'll be able to order and get delivery through WeChat.
And so you were saying that you're able to book restaurants.
Yeah.
You also saying that so in terms of what you were finding was that people were starting to move their web presence onto WeChat.
Yes. Yeah. So to give you an example, from a news perspective, when we had Reuters.com in China, we had millions of people following us on WeChat and slightly less on .com. And what we realized that actually we were growing hugely on the WeChat, and that was an environment where people were staying. So in order to capture those audience, you had to develop your WeChat presence.
So I think that's quite interesting in the terms of the way that, you know, people are having to think about, you know, you have to have a web presence, but also there's a need to actually move to this social media presence as well.
Yeah, definitely. And you see it in the West. The West are kind of developing similar attributes from WeChat. And I think they've seen how successful it is and how successful it is to capture the credit card details, that it makes sense for them to create or try and create such an ecosystem. I'm not sure whether we'll develop it in a similar way then.
Because I'm not sure that Facebook hasn't asked for my credit card details yet.
Not yet. I think it would like to.
Well, I'm sure it would. I mean, it seems to be busy trying to sell me ads that are irrelevant at the moment.
Exactly.
And chase me around the internet for things that I've already bought. And so I mean, the figures that you were giving in terms of you know, in terms of the impressions that you were getting at the website and WeChat, it was double basically what you were getting on WeChat to what you were getting on the web. So this is not just like a slight up 20%. It was basically double. Yeah. Which is kind of amazing. And we also talk as well about, you know, that if we talk about Alibaba as well. Yeah. Just so people, Alibaba is like the Eastern version of Amazon, but mega times bigger.
Yeah, the transactions I think dwarf. I think the transactions on Taobao and Alibaba far dwarf Amazon and eBay put together. And it really is a monster. They've also owned a bank, and part of their ecosystem is owning the credit card details and getting people to transact more often. So Taobao is obviously the big, and Alibaba the big competitors to WeChat and Tencent. So they're all trying to move into each other's space, which will be an interesting one. I think Alibaba is viewing the rest of the world as a way to grow as well and compete with Amazon.
I think that, you know, Alibaba is the competitor to Amazon. I think everybody else has just pretty much fallen by the wayside, haven't they? Might have lost you again, Alan. Oh, here you're back.
No.
So Alibaba is the Amazon competition, really, isn't it?
Yes, definitely with Taobao, yeah.
And you were saying that you can actually pay with your face through facial recognition with Alibaba.
So there's some facial recognition apps that are developing within China and around the world. People are investing a lot of time into this. There's a company called Megvii based out of Beijing, and they've been spending the last 4 years perfecting the Chinese face for facial recognition. And I believe they've done deals with people like Alibaba. And the idea is that you'll be able to go into a shop and pay with your face, which I think is becoming a reality now in China. It'll take some taking off. It'll take a while for it to take off, but they see this as the future.
I can see with the iPhone X or iPhone 10, and having the facial recognition on that. I mean, that's really the thing that's going to change everything, I think, in the West, because it's going to move that way.
Yeah, it is. And the whole idea of going into a shop and not having any credit card payment materials on you and just being able to pay with your body becomes quite sci-fi, I think.
Well, it's going to be, you know, the first time you do it and you're going to go in there and you're going to go, you know, like, it's going to be like cool, isn't it? And everyone's going to be going, wow, what did you do? You know?
Yeah, exactly that. But the technology's there, I think. It's just about the perfection of it.
Yes. And I think sometimes we kind of feel, sometimes I think there's, because it is quite sci-fi, the fact that you don't want to do it because you kind of feel, well, you know, well, somebody could, you know, I've seen all kinds of articles that, oh yeah, you know, you can have your, you know, someone can buy stuff. You know, they'll attack you for your phone and then buy stuff with it using your face and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, but they can take your wallet.
Yeah, exactly. There is that. I mean, there was that famous program Total Recall, which was it Arnold Schwarzenegger in that film? And that was about people borrowing people's faces, etc.
Yes,
it is sci-fi coming true.
It is, but I can see it's the way it's going.
And the one thing I would say about China is that there's a massive thirst for innovation and development, which I think we have in the West, but it's incredible to see in China. And I would urge people to go to China to actually see how innovation is developing at different paces in different areas of life, which makes it interesting and something that I think we can learn from.
And I think our perception in the West of China is that what they do is that they take Western ideas and they copy them. And yeah, maybe, you know, there is some of that going on, but I can't remember, you know, I'm sure someone will tell me after this how many unicorns there are in China, but there's a whole load of them, and there's just an amazing, it's a hotbed of real innovation there. You know, there's the funding there, there's they've invested in education, and there's the talent that's actually creating new ideas.
And there's a market, so massive market with access to capital and talent is going to drive ideas, and they're voracious for developing ideas and for the monetary reward that brings. And I think we should spend a lot more time watching what they're up to, because some of the stuff is great, would work really well here.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, have you seen it? Now we've been through sort of WhatsApp and you know what it can be, WeChat and what it can do. Have you seen it being used in business at all?
I mean, as I was saying, I use WeChat for business for communication and file sharing. And obviously, if you're a business that's selling goods to consumers, it makes sense. For over here, certainly from a communication tool initially, I do believe that WeChat are trying to spend a lot more time and effort on international development. So some of the features that are available in China, I see coming here. And I think that's going to be a bit of a race between WhatsApp and Facebook and obviously WeChat in terms of trying to get market share dominance. I think the more they can insert into your daily lives and the more money potentially they can earn.
Because my book is we've you know, of all the languages around the world, we've sold one license for a different language version to English, and it's Chinese, and it's coming out in 2018. It's taken longer for that to come out than actually the book itself. I have you know, but it's just it's interesting that, you know, with the amount of people that speak French or Spanish, if you think about South America, I've had a lot of people in the Americas basically ask for a Spanish version, but nobody stepped forward to license that. I've had one conversation about French, but the first one that came through was Chinese.
Yeah, it would do, I think. I mean, so much of their world is social nowadays and mobile. So the idea of optimizing social selling makes so much sense there.
And building relationships online, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. And they've missed out, or are missing out, almost the desktop world. So most of Asia now is on mobile anyway. So you look at people about desktops or laptops, and they almost wonder why.
I did some training in Kuala Lumpur just before Christmas last year, and I asked people to bring their laptops along, and there was 3 people, and they turned out without them. And I said, "Where are your laptops?" They said, "We haven't got them. We do everything on our mobiles."
Exactly.
And they had some supersonic thing, you know, that you can only buy in Korea that you can't buy here, or something like that, where they looked at my iPhone and went, you know, like.
I was in Shanghai a couple of weeks ago, and I went into a mobile phone shop, as you do, just to see what's on offer there. And the phones are big and they're a lot cheaper, but they do pretty much everything we do over here, sometimes as good as sometimes. Companies like Xiaomi are interesting. They're offering cheaper big mobile phones. So are Oppo. They're trying to feed their huge marketplace. But then if you look at the top end of the market, and everyone wants an Apple.
Well, yeah. I mean, will everybody pay £1,000 for an Apple? Yeah, of course they will.
Yeah, exactly.
and that's partly because I'll be on the train and everyone will go, you know, it's a bit like wearing a pair of Gucci shoes. You know, well, I don't have any, but, you know, you wear them because you can. Yep,
and it's a luxury item.
And it's got, and people will know that you've paid whatever a pair of Gucci shoes costs.
Yeah, totally that.
Alan, it's been really insightful. Thank you. It's been great talking to someone that's actually got real experience of WeChat and from the Far East, and your Obviously, your track record in social is makes mine look like kindergarten. So thank you very much. It's shaken up a bit, but we came back within seconds, so I went with it.
Brilliant.
but remind everybody where people can get hold of you.
Hong Kong Griffin's my Twitter handle, or Alan Griffin on LinkedIn.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks for talking to you today. Great.
Thanks.
I'll see you on WeChat.
Yeah, thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Alan. Thanks.
Cheers. Bye.